So, recap of the game the other night. MVPs from the game. DeQuan Finn, I thought was outstanding. At quarterback, very efficient first half. Um, was able to take some short fields and turn those into touchdowns, and did a really good job of extending some plays with his legs. Also, did a really good job of extending some plays where he got out of the pocket, threatened the line of scrimmage, and made some really key throws down the field. So, really trusted his guys in the passing game, and Eastern was going to make it really hard to run on that defense, and we had to respond with some good passing yards, and he was able to do that. So he was our guy on offense. I thought Chris McDonald has been really, really outstanding on defense throughout the entire course of the season here, and another great game for him. A couple pass breakups, did a really nice job, on a fit on a crack replace, where he came up and made a tackle near the line of scrimmage. And really, our corners all year long have been really, really good. Quinion gets a lot of the attention, and rightfully so, because he's such a great player. But some of those other guys have stepped up in key moments, and Chris has been doing a really good job also. So, and then in special teams, I think our returns, Devin Maddox's big punt return at the beginning of the year in the first quarter there gave us a short field, and we were able to score a touchdown off of that. He was our MVP on special teams, from his responsibilities and punt return. So those guys I thought were highlighted. Some other guys I thought had really, really good games. And as we progress on here, turning our page to the team down south. I mean, obviously we need those individual type efforts to be successful in this football game. So looking forward to having a good short week of practice here and getting ready to prepare to play the game.
What kind of challenges does the short week present, especially with where the team is at, kind of injury-wise, health-wise, as you mentioned from the game the other night?
Yeah, I mean we're in November football here, and you never expect to have a fully healthy team at this point in time of the season. So, you go to the staff meeting every morning, and you wait for the Grim Reaper to bring the news of what's bad, and in the world of the training room. But no, I say that lightly because our sports medicine staff has been unbelievable. Adam Barter, our trainer, is awesome. And at a place like this, you got to wear a lot of hats as an athletic trainer. So those guys have done a great job of him and his staff of getting our guys the best attention that they possibly can get, and getting them ready to go. Obviously in a short week, the schedule does provide some challenges just because you're crunched for time. So guys got to work a little harder at it, and the training staff's got to do a little bit more and a little bit extra, which they're always willing and ready and able to do. So, but I give our docs and our medical staff a lot of credit, our training staff a lot of credit to getting our guys ready to go.
Is there any update, though, on Jeremiah Peters specifically?
I think Jeremiah is going to be out for a little bit of time here. I don't know the extent of that MRI today, so we'll see where it goes.
With how much success you had through the air against Eastern, just how much of a benefit? I know you guys have passing games before, but have it coming off a performance like that, in which DQ threw for over 400, just how does that help coming down the road now?
Well, you strive for balance offensively. We always have, and we want to run the ball. We want to set the table that way, and we want to build great play action passes off the running game, and then kind of take it from there. But yeah, I think that one of those take what the defense is giving you type of things, and try to do the best job you can to expose what you feel are weaknesses. And the other night we were able to do that, and but that's not going to be the case every week. That could be something different this week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, obviously you're entering rivalry week now with BG. Just in terms of the Battle of I-75, what does that represent for you?
Well, I mean, between myself, Paul probably. J-Bo, our equipment guy. I mean, there's not too many of us in this building that have been here as long as I have. When it comes to how many times they're going through this week and this prep and this routine, and I feel like it's on schedule, right? You say the same things each and every year, but you say those things because they've impacted you in some type of way. So the game obviously affects so many people in our community. It's obviously really important to both the city of Toledo, to Bowling Green, to like I said, Lucas County, Northwest Ohio, and really, I mean, I think it's a branded game nationally to where people really pay attention to it. Obviously, being in a midweek setting to what it is, it's the entire country gets to watch you play. So I've lived it, in multiple different roles on this coaching staff, from being the head coach down to an assistant, and each one of the games has had its own different identity. It's had its own different turns and twists that you scratch your head and did that just happen type of moments. So, but that's what makes college football so interesting.
With a veteran team, does that help with the emotions of what the rivalry is, especially coming off of last year where the game kind of ended crazily and also ended in a loss?
Well, I mean, we're very process driven here. We're very day to day, what our day to day routine looks like, and what that look. Where do you put the energy that's provided to you each and every day? And I think in college athletics, that's something that's got to be talked about consistently. You know what I mean? So who the opponent is, whether that's a Power Five opponent each week. It's it's a bowl game, it's a MAC championship game, it's this rivalry game. Your routine doesn't change. Your thought process and where your energy needs to be channeled to doesn't change. But obviously, sometimes life is a great teacher of things, and you have to pay attention to what your past experiences are, and you got to learn from them. And last year's game probably, I hope, taught us a lot of stuff, and we'll see if we learn from it.
Ball security, of course, is important every week, but is there an added emphasis knowing the kind of nature of how BG's defense is with turnovers?
Yeah, I mean, they've been great at taking the football away. Number one in our league, I believe, in turnover margin. And they've had some great defensive performances that have been aided by taking the football away. And, I was just in this discussion the other day with somebody. I think that, 15 years ago, you were celebrated as if you were a safety that took somebody's head off, a defenseless receiver's head off coming across the middle. And now you're viewed as a criminal if you do that. So, how defensive football is taught and how, the attention to the ball rather than making a big hit or making a highlight type play. And what the focus is really changed the thought process of how these defensive coaches coach it. And you can tell as you watch the tape that those guys have put a lot of emphasis in that, and they've aided from that and benefited from that.
To piggyback, they've also found a good way to get to the quarterback. I think they lead one of the top MAC teams in getting to sacks. There's obviously the challenge there, obviously up front.
Well, I mean, I think it's complementary defense, right? I mean, I think they've got good edge players that can disrupt and affect the QB, but also I think they've done a good job covering for long enough to create pressures, and they do enough to blitz into disguise to confuse you. But I think also they're able to create pressures and hurries on the quarterback from their base personnel, and I think that in their base looks, and when you can do that, you can stay balanced, you can feel like you're playing really good fundamental defense, and you can still create those havoc type plays. I mean, that's tough on an offense.
On the other side of the ball, you talk about the injuries that have impacted your team. They've been running a bunch of different quarterbacks. Now their running back room is a bunch of different personnel. Does that add challenges for how the team prepares this week?
Well, I mean, again, injuries are part of football. I mean, you got to do the best job of preparing for what you think is available to you, and you got to watch the videotape and take off the tape what you see. They have a good offensive staff. They'll put a good plan together to try to attack us, I'm sure. We got to play sound football and do what we do best, and that's just make sure our cleats are in the ground and our eyes are in the right place and play disciplined. I would say the two running backs that you mentioned are tremendous players. I think they have great contact balance, really good with the football in their hands, and are real threats out of the backfield catching it. So those two guys are a problem. When they're in there, you gotta do a great job of knowing where those guys are at all times.
I know you touched on this at the beginning, and it's a couple of days away from the last game you just played. But do you feel like there's not a different sense, but just a different feeling within the team, knowing the pride, I guess, that's on the line between these two schools?
Well, I mean, it's in your face no matter wherever you go. You know what I mean? You're always going to hear about, you're at a gas station, you're filling your car up with gas. There's a guy next to you with a Bowling Green hoodie on, and there's a guy at the register with a Toledo polo on. I mean, it's just what it is. It's just where the location of two places are. So there's a lot of crossover, a lot of coaches that, these guys are recruited by both schools. Our league is naturally a bus league by nature. So, that turns up in a lot of games. And, again, like I said before, we know what this means in Northwest Ohio, what it means to both institutions. And but I also think in here inside these walls, this game, along with all the other ones we've played, are very, very important to us. And as long as we understand the magnitude of what that looks like and the energy required to make it the product become what we want it to become, that's where our focus needs to be.
Speaking of community also, we've had a couple of these where it's like brothers facing off. We have another one with the Perrysburg-Zimmerly family. Just how exciting can that be for especially a local kid to be able to have that rivalry within their family?
You'd have to probably ask their mother about that. But no, I mean, I think we, that was, we experienced that through the recruiting process, with Grant, and that's probably very unique, and tremendous family, both great kids, very diligent in their work and self-made at how they approach their day-to-day routine. So, I know they wear different jerseys, but those two boys are a product of great parenting, and I'm sure this will be a fun experience for that whole family.
You guys are in a similar situation like last year where you clinched before the final two games. What makes you think that this time around is different?
I don't know if it's different. We'll find out.
Is there something, a characteristic about this team that you think is different or improved from last year's?
I would go back to, like I said, life lessons are that's our greatest teacher. You know what I mean? So we want to learn from our experiences from last year. Obviously, we didn't handle the end of the season great last year, and we'll see if we learned anything from that. We're in a similar situation. I think if you were at our press conference after the game the other night, I think a couple of the players came up here and said, I think exactly what it is. We clinched the West, but we haven't won anything. We haven't done anything yet. So what we've talked about back in January and February, that's all out in front of us still, and that still has to be claimed and has to be taken, and no one's giving you that. So, I don't, I'm not making light of your question, but like I said, I don't know if it's any different. We're going to find out if it is, and we're going to find out if our work and our time and our energy has been spent in the right place to make it happen.
Talking about the grind of the action portion of the schedule, and you mentioned the buses and getting back at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock and all that kind of stuff, and then having to turn around right the next day, especially on a short week. Can you kind of illustrate? There have been times when you've slept in your office or coaching staff have done that, and kind of just how challenging and trying it can be at times?
Yeah, I think that it's that's the first thing as a fan or as an outsider, when you pick up a schedule and you see, that's the first thing you guys see is like, oh, this great game is going to be this. I don't. I look at it and say, man, I'm not going to sleep that night. I'm not going to get home until 6 a.m. on that one. We got to go there and do what? So, yeah, it's a challenge. It's you see these Tuesday night, Wednesday night games, and you kind of feel for the opposing coaches on what's going to happen and how their week is going to go all over our league. But it's part of it. We've put ourselves in a situation where we've bought into this these midweek games. We can't brag and claim the good and not understand there's some bad that's going to go along with it. So that's part of it. We accept it and keep rolling. But yeah, there's some sleepless nights. There's some nights, you got to sleep in your office. There's some nights that you got to, there's some days where you look at the clock and you're like, oh, how did it get to be whatever time it is today? So, but I think you understand that when you get into this profession, there's going to be some of that.
Let's fast forward like 10 years and you reflect back on VG and UT and the rivalry there during your tenure as head coach. What's the first thing that comes to your mind or you're going to tell somebody?
I just think it's pure. It's what college football is all about. It's just, it has the feel of a high school rivalry in the sense that it's so close. The communities are intermixed, and there's again, it's in your face. It's hard to avoid. So, I think a lot of respect for that program. What they've been able to accomplish. I would imagine that that would be the same thought process as what they'd say about us. And I think that that's what makes the rivalry so great. And a lot goes into the game, a lot goes into the preparation, but a lot goes into, like I said, you're eating lunch and somebody's next to you with a Bowling Green hat on, and he knows you're the football coach, and he's looking at you weird, and you want to say something, and you can say it, and that type of feeling. So, it's interesting that way in a sense. It has a high school feel, but it also has the magnitude of it's going to be a national stage, and the game's going to be on national TV. So the whole world gets to see our program, gets to see their program, and really gets to see how much energy Northwest Ohio puts into the game, which I think is really cool.
Last one for me with Daquan. When you have a quarterback coming in and you might be younger, getting reps and necessary reps, you kind of win with them and maybe make mistakes with them. How has he evolved to limiting the mistakes and being a player that you can count on to win a game and maybe not win and maybe lose?
I think all quarterbacks go through a maturation process that, if it looks the same when they're a junior or senior as it did when they were a freshman, we're not getting things accomplished what need to get accomplished. So, you can do as good as you can and put the most elaborate plan together of trying to simulate scenarios and situations through spring football practice, through summer practices, through preseason practices, but you cannot simulate game day. So you can sit, if you're a baseball player, you can sit in the batting cage for hours, but you cannot simulate a 100-mile-an-hour fastball coming high and tight. And sometimes when you play quarterback, it's high and tight a lot. So, you have to react and move on the fly. You have to make quick, decisions on call. There's not a lot of thought process that goes into that. You have to be a great decision maker before you get the football in your hands from the center. And once it's in your hands, you have to be a great reactionary player. And I think that evolves over time. So you're seeing things in a third year as a starter now, or 2.5 years as a starter, that you didn't see when he was a first-year starter. And that's a testament to his growth. It's a testament to his preparation and what he puts into it. At quarterback, I think you're viewed differently. It's the most scrutinized position in sport. You don't, it could be not your fault, but you're going to get blamed. It could be, you could be the reason why, you could not be the reason why you won the game, and you're going to get the credit. So there's a balance of humility that has to be in you. And I think he has that. I think he's demonstrated that over time. And he has a good process. And if he keeps buying into that, he'll play really, really good. But anything that deviates from that process, he's probably not going to play good. So he understands that. And, that's what it's like for every quarterback.
Not to take away the prep that's going into this week, but for this team to clinch an extra game, a guaranteed game as put on top of the regular season, just what satisfaction can you draw from that achievement, and can it be used as fuel and motivation in these last 2 regular season games?
Well, first team meeting, you're guaranteed to play 12 games, and we're trying to play 14. Well, we've secured 14 of them, so we're going to play in 14 this year. And now that's one box that you can check and you can take off the table. Now, what's left? In the same breath, you said you wanted to win all your football games. Well, that's still a reality too. And in the same breath, you said you wanted to win and beat your rival. That's a reality too. So, what the opportunities that have been provided to us by a really good process. It's been provided to us by really sound, diligent work over a long course of time. And man, oh man, we'd be a fool now to disregard that and cut that off. That's got to continue and got to continue at a high level, and maybe even at a higher level than maybe it's been. The climb up the mountain, the hardest part is the peak. It's rare air up there. You got to the separation factor, the margin for error is very, very small. So we understand that. We understand that you got to, having great days matter more now than they do back in January and February and June and July and August, and and we've earned that. We've prepared. We put ourselves in this position. So let's capitalize on it.